On June 26, 2020, Karen Garner, a 73-year-old woman suffering from dementia and sensory aphasia, was stopped by Walmart employees after she left the store without paying for items worth approximately $14. Video footage captured Miss Garner walking out of the store with the items in her hands, and she was soon brought back inside by the employees. Subsequently, Miss Garner attempted to pay for the items, but Walmart employees refused her service and asked her to leave immediately. Compliance with their request, Miss Garner left the store. However, one of the Walmart employees contacted the Loveland Police Department to report the alleged theft. A few minutes later, Officer Austin Hoop responded to the call and located Miss Garner as she was walking home after the incident. Officer Hoop parked his patrol car behind her and approached to stop her. Unfortunately, the situation escalated negatively. Officer Hoop failed to effectively communicate with Miss Garner, and he resorted to violently throwing her to the ground in an attempt to place her in handcuffs. This action was unjustified as Miss Garner displayed no signs of being a threat to Officer Hoop and did not attempt to flee. Instead, she continued walking, which did not warrant such a forceful takedown. In fact, Officer Hoop's approach appeared misplaced from the beginning as he asked the visibly confused Miss Garner an unnecessary question. Do you need to be arrested right now?
Do you need to be arrested right now? No. Okay.
After successfully placing Miss Garner in handcuffs, Officer Hoop proceeded to guide her back to the patrol car. Unfortunately, during this process, he continued to employ excessive force on her and attempted to insinuate that she had been engaged in a physical altercation with him.
Why are you fighting with me? And why are you trying to slip the cuffs off?
I'm going home.
The video from the officer's body camera proved to be beyond a reasonable doubt that Miss Garner and Officer Hoop never came close to a physical altercation. It's obvious that Officer Hoop didn't need to use so much force to keep a 73-year-old woman in custody. In addition, it's important to highlight that Officer Hoop apparently did not take into account the detainee's mental state, which is a significant issue. Officer Hoop obviously disregarded the legal requirement that police use their discretion to determine whether or not a suspect is mentally competent.
I'm going home. I'm going home.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to search her.
As if the force employed by one cop wasn't already severe, a second confrontation broke out as cop Daria Jalali arrived to aid Officer Hoop, resulting in Miss Garner being taken to the ground again. Both officers proceeded to secure Miss Garner inside the patrol car, despite her repeated statements that she was simply trying to go home. Officer Hoop responded to her pleas with a dismissive laugh, stating, "No, you're not," in a mocking manner.
What are you doing? Get out of here. This is not your business.
Once again, Hoop's negligent demeanor became evident as he dealt with the situation. While Officer Hoop moved to the other side of the patrol car to secure Miss Garner, a Good Samaritan emerged from his vehicle and approached Officer Hoop, questioning the necessity of using aggression against an elderly woman.
What's your date of birth, Karen? What's your date of birth? Okay.
The young man had witnessed the entire incident unfold from a distance and decided to drive up to the scene. Officer Hoop, displaying further negligence, dismissed the young man's concerns, instructing him to leave as it was none of his business. Following a brief confrontation, Officer Hoop returned to assisting Officer Jolly in securing Miss Garner. Once they successfully placed Miss Garner inside the patrol car, Officer Hoop attempted to identify her by asking for her date of birth. However, he received no response, indicating Miss Garner was unable to provide the requested information. Given Miss Garner's disability, it is unsurprising that she would encounter difficulties understanding Officer Hoop's demands, let alone recalling her date of birth. Both officers appeared to overlook the possibility of Miss Garner having a disability, despite it becoming increasingly evident by that point. Shortly after, the officers engaged in a casual conversation, during which Officer Jalali expressed her concerns for Officer Hoop, stating that she would have arrived more quickly if he had mentioned a physical altercation.
200. Yeah, okay.
All right,
Hey.
let's get her down the stairs.
Okay, we don't need to wait for Capella.
No, we can see what he, I
Okay.
mean, we know what's it said.
She stole some stuff, and they caught her before she left and got it back, and then she ran out. So we have
And then
the...
you contacted her for that.
And then she resisted and
obstructed and
obstructed.
resisted. So
We're good either way.
we're good either way.
Cool.
She's going.
All right.
Get a path. If they decide not to prosecute, I don't care.
Cool. Okay, we'll head down there.
Officer Hoop responded to Officer Jalali's concerns by making remarks about Miss Garner, commenting that she was like 20 pounds, and implying that the situation would have been different if it had involved a larger individual. This statement indicates that Officer Hoop was well aware of Miss Garner's fragile state as an elderly woman, yet he still exhibited excessive aggression toward her. The situation becomes even more questionable when both officers display uncertainty about the potential charges against Miss Gardner. Officer Jalali appears to have no understanding of what Miss Gardner could have done wrong initially. Sergeant Phil Metzler, the fourth responding officer, informs Officer Hoop that Miss Garner would be charged with resisting arrest and obstruction, regardless of whether or not Walmart decided to press charges. Immediately following the incident, Officer Hoop, Officer Jalali, and Community Service Officer Tyler Blackett were captured by a police station surveillance camera engaging in laughter and joking while watching the footage of the arrest from Officer Hoop's body camera. On May 19, 2021, the Colorado 8th Judicial District Critical Response Team completed an investigation into the incident, leading to the filing of criminal charges against Officer Hoop and Officer Jalali. Officer Hoop faced 3 charges, including assault. However, on March 2, 2022, Officer Hoop pleaded guilty to a single charge of second-degree assault, classified as a Class 4 felony. Consequently, he received a 5-year prison sentence. Meanwhile, Officer Jalali pleaded guilty to 1 count of failure to intervene in Larimer County District Court in June of the same year. As a result, she was sentenced to 45 days in jail and placed under 36 months of probation. However, despite the clarification provided by Mr. Hodges when he displayed his cane from his back pocket to Deputy Goad, she continued to pursue him. It became evident that Deputy Goad lacked probable cause to detain Mr. Hodges, as her suspicion of him carrying a firearm was disproven.
What's this in your back pocket? I saw you walking it.
It's a navigational aids. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
Yes, sir. I was
You
investigating.
have reasonable,
Do you want me to
articulated
put you in
suspicion.
handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You don't
have
have
you
to.
ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be a dick to me.
Well, you're being one to me.
No, sir, I'm
Have a
doing my
good day.
job.
Am I detained?
Yeah, you are.
Nevertheless, Deputy Goad proceeded to inform Mr. Hodges that he was being detained and demanded his identification, asking for his name and date of birth. Mr. Hodges questioned the necessity of providing his personal information, stating that he had not committed any crime. In response, he requested the presence of Deputy Goad's supervisor, who coincidentally arrived at that moment.
Sir, what you talking for?
For a walking stick.
So-
And it could look like a weapon. She asked you to
Really?
present it, okay?
Now she's asking me for ID.
Okay.
I don't need the ID unless
Okay.
there's reasonable, articulated suspicion
And her,
that I have committed a crime, am committing a crime,
And
or
her-
about to do a crime.
Sergeant Randy Harrison approached Mr. Hodges and promptly inquired about the reason for Deputy Goad's initial stop. Mr. Hodges explained the circumstances to Sergeant Harrison, who in turn demanded identification from Mr. Hodges as well.
you were armed, okay? And she's asking you for your ID.
Well, now
Okay.
she has verified that I am not armed.
Okay.
So there is no
you got your
problem.
ID or not?
I do have my ID, but
Okay.
you don't need it.
Okay. You need it on? Okay. Okay.
Initially, Deputy Goad may have possessed a reasonable suspicion to stop Mr. Hodges if she genuinely believed that the item protruding from his back pocket was a firearm. However, once it became unequivocally evident that Mr. Hodges was not carrying any firearms, any further detainment would be considered unlawful. Despite this realization, Deputy Goad and her supervisor, Sergeant Harrison, collaborated to handcuff Mr. Hodges and conduct a search of his pockets. Mr. Hodges requested the names and badge numbers of both officers, but neither of them responded to his demand.
Wallet.
Where's your wallet at, sir?
I don't have a wallet on me.
Okay, where's your ID?
Where's your
It's in
ID
my
at?
pocket.
Which pocket?
You are not allowed to search me.
It's in this pocket.
There you go.
Thank you.
It is important to note that throughout the ordeal, the officers did not show any concern regarding the cane that initiated the encounter. The cane remained in Mr. Hodges' back pocket during the entire confrontation, and neither of the two officers displayed any interest in it, even when Mr. Hodges pulled it out in front of them. This further emphasizes that the cane was never the underlying issue. The officers had other, seemingly trivial reasons to detain Mr. Hodges. After engaging in back-and-forth communication over the police radio, Deputy Goad approached Mr. Hodges once again, attempting to assert unnecessary authority and further escalate the situation. She questioned him, asking if it was challenging for him to comply.
Are you legally blind? Yes, I am. Okay. I had to walk up here in the dark for jury duty. which was canceled. But you're using your stick. You don't have to use a stick all the time? Not all the time.
Mr. Hodges was arrested and charged with resisting without violence, as indicated by jail records that show his booking at 8:25 a.m. that morning. He was released 26 hours later. 2 days following his release, Mr. Hodges submitted a records request for the body camera footage on November 7, 2022. The viral video that circulated clearly demonstrated that Mr. Hodges had not engaged in any actions warranting arrest. An arrest report authored by Deputy Goad, she stated that James had violated Florida Statute 843.02 by obstructing an ongoing investigation. According to her report, Mr. Hodges repeatedly refused to allow identification of the object in his pocket and declined to provide his ID. However, the body camera footage contradicted her account, showing that Mr. Hodges promptly and willingly presented the object from his pocket to both officers. Miss Odom's claims that Mr. Clark had assaulted her resulted in a bloody altercation turned out to be unfounded. When the officers arrived at the scene, there was no evidence of blood or visible injuries. Moreover, had the officers requested a background check on Miss Odom, they would have discovered her extensive history of encounters with the law. This included a 2016 conviction for fraud in the first degree, multiple felony charges of aggravated domestic assault, and even an attempted murder charge, which she apparently remained influenced by. The actions taken by Officers Hanning and Summers demonstrated a clear neglect of the usual protocols during the encounter.
I literally just saw banged on the door, or through the wall. Bam, 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 and I'm sleeping. Shut the f*** up!
They seemed to accept Miss Odom's account without questioning her, despite the evident fact that she was intoxicated and lacked clarity. After speaking with Miss Odom and Mr. Braden, the officers proceeded to approach Mr. Clark, who resided next door. Following a few knocks on Mr. Clark's door, he opened it while holding a collectible sawfish snout sword, which had been a gift from his late brother-in-law. Mr. Clark had retrieved the sword with the sole intention of self-defense, expecting a confrontation with Miss Odom rather than the arrival of police attempting to resolve the matter. Given the circumstances, Mr. Clark was entirely justified in opening the door with a weapon in hand, as the officers had not identified themselves as law enforcement, a requirement mandated by law prior to such encounters. Despite the situation de-escalating when Mr. Clark complied by placing the weapon on a shelf and facing the officers, Officer Hanning made an attempt to tackle him by kicking his leg and punching his head. It was apparent at this point that Mr. Clark did not pose a threat to the officers. Officer Hanning had sufficient time and opportunity to detain Mr. Clark after he had put away the sword. However, instead of doing so, Officer Hanning retreated and proceeded to draw his firearm. Mr. Clark, remaining motionless with his hands clearly visible, demonstrated that he held nothing that could potentially harm anyone.
What do you want? What the fuck?
It was at this moment that Officer Hanning, without providing any warning, aimed his taser at Mr. Clark's stomach and discharged it. It's important to note that conflicting demands issued by the two officers. Officer Hanning instructed Mr. Clark to walk into the hallway, while Officer Summers simultaneously told him to get on the ground. As Mr. Clark fell backward, his head made contact with a chair, rendering him unconscious. The situation worsened when both officers attempted to move Mr. Clark's body outside, resulting in his head striking the corner of a shelf, which caused a laceration on his head. Furthermore, Officer Hanning employed unnecessary force by placing his knee on Mr. Clark's neck while restraining him with handcuffs. Reports indicated that his knee restraint led to an injury to Mr. Clark's carotid artery, necessitating surgical intervention for treatment. It is notable that this particular knee restraint has been associated with several fatalities in the past. As Officer Summers attended to Mr. Clark in an attempt to revive him, Officer Hanning had a different agenda.
Get out here right now! Get out here!
Get
on the ground!
No. They hit that wall so hard, I thought they were going to come through the wall.
He re-entered Mr. Clark's apartment and took hold of the sword that had been placed on top of the shelf. The reasoning behind Officer Hanning's actions may have been unclear at first, but it became evident with his subsequent actions. Officer Hanning positioned the sword approximately 5 feet away from where Mr. Clark lay unconscious, creating the illusion that Mr. Clark had walked out of his apartment wielding the sword with the intent to attack the officers. Following the use of unlawful force, Mr. Clark was swiftly transported to the hospital, where tests for drugs or alcohol came back negative. His initial vital signs indicated the possibility of heart-related complications, and he required stitches for a head wound. Within 24 hours of the incident, Mr. Clark developed a blood clot in his injured carotid artery and began vomiting blood. Additionally, 12 hours later, he suffered a stroke. Approximately 48 hours after being discharged, Mr. Clark found himself readmitted to the hospital due to complications arising from the initial surgery. Consequently, Mr. Clark pursued legal action and reached a settlement agreement with the Idaho Springs Police Department amounting to a remarkable sum of $7 million. This record-breaking payout exceeds the settlement awarded to Karen Garner in September 2021.
What's going on, guys?
Poor guy.
Not much.
Nice one.
What's up?
How you doing, officer?
Is this your car?
Well, it's a rent right now. My car's been shot.
The Des Moines Police Department is currently embroiled in a legal issue after it was sued for the sum of $75,000. During the arrest of the plaintiff, it is alleged that the agency caused both physical and emotional harm to the plaintiff.
Breaking off. Put it in drive and I.
Okay.
Yeah, officer.
So it's your car, though? Did they give you a
It's
fob or
not
something?
my car, officer.
Did
My
they
car
give you a
is-
key fob or something? Or?
You ready, real quick?
Yes, sir. Officer.
An investigation has been opened into this matter. Investigations and legal proceedings have been initiated so that we may determine how credible the claims are and ensure that justice is done for all involved parties.
Shake on the ground, and your buddy's giving me the idea that maybe he's got a gun.
Officer Kyle Tice, a seasoned law enforcement officer, handled a routine traffic stop in a manner that was both professional and efficient. He was concerned about the well-being of everyone and questioned everything from firearms to drugs in great detail. The unruffled demeanor with which Officer Tice approached the situation, as well as his continuous questioning of key topics.
There's no shake on the floor?
Officer.
No.
Okay.
It's
All
a
right.
rainstorm.
And you don't have any weapons on you, you said?
Officer, that is correct.
You don't got no weapons on you?
Officer, no, sir.
Go ahead and step out, Montre.
Actually, what I did?
Yep, I just told you why. 3 times. You want me to recap again?
Officer, look, my hands is up.
Yep, your hands are up, and now I'm asking you to step out of the car.
I gave you my ID.
Demonstrated his commitment to preserving public safety on the highways. Officer Tice's demeanor shifted, and he took on an aggressive tone despite the fact that the driver had been helpful up until this point.
Go to jail. I would expect you to please listen. I mean, I told you I'm a cop. Face the car when you step out. Face the car when you step out. Face the car when you step out. Don't flex. Don't flex. I don't know what you're doing, man, but you need to knock that off. I mean, your heart is thumping, dude. Like, you're beating.
Officer, please don't.
Don't what? Have a seat.
Okay.
Have a seat. I think that your buddy has a gun, so I need you to step in the car.
You think my
Step
buddy has a gun?
He's acting funny. Step in the car, please.
Officer,
If you don't step in the car, you're going to jail for sure.
Tice reached for his handcuffs while exuding an air of power, and he used them to bind the driver. Even if the driver cooperated with the officer's demands, the officer's actions nevertheless presented an unsettling display of power, and the unwarranted use of force frightened the witnesses.
When he's sitting there like that, like there's a gun right where you know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, like, that's what happened.
The lawsuit was settled for a total of $75,000, with the city agreeing to pay each of the plaintiffs $25,000 as part of the agreement. Despite this, the ruling sheds light on prospective issues that may arise in the future in legal matters. Officer Tice is the subject of yet another formal complaint, and other law enforcement personnel have been accused of engaging in racial profiling and arbitrary detentions. The fact that the City Council did not pass an ordinance to outlaw pretextual stops means that a great deal of unresolved business remains. An unfortunate event that has stoked controversy led to the arrest of a black quarterback by a law enforcement officer who discovered bird droppings on the quarterback's vehicle. The quarterback, whose identity has been omitted to protect his privacy, was involved in an incident that took place after he parked his vehicle close to a nearby park.
Bird shit?
Yeah.
That ain't bird shit.
I promise you that's bird doo-doo.
I promise you it's not, though.
I swear to God that's bird doo-doo.
Well, I swear to God it's not, because I just tested it and that turned pink.
Bro, you can see it on the windshield.
That's not bird food.
I swear to God that's bird doo-doo.
That's not bird food.
I swear to
That's a lot of
God.
bird. That's a lot of bird shit, man.
I tried to clean it last night at the gas station.
I can still wipe it off.
It's bird doo-doo.
All right. Okay. No, I don't.
On the hood of his automobile, unbeknownst to him, a filthy deposit had been left behind by a flying bird. An officer arrived on the scene after receiving a report from a concerned resident and questioned the quarterback about the claimed damage done to his vehicle. The officer's questions focused on whether the quarterback was responsible for the damage. The officer made the choice to arrest the quarterback, notwithstanding his explanation, citing a questionable charge of vandalism as the basis for his judgment. Concerns have been raised as a result of the incident over the practice of racial profiling, as well as the disproportionate targeting of people of color by police enforcement. A substance that appeared to be cocaine was found in the vehicle that the quarterback was driving, which led to the controversy that surrounded him. However, additional testing established beyond a reasonable doubt that it was, in fact, bird poop and not an unlawful substance. The quarterback's reputation was severely damaged as a result of the fraudulent test results, which generated an outcry. The quarterback may now exhale a sigh of relief now that this information has been revealed, although at the same time, questions are being raised about the accuracy and reliability of the initial testing protocols. By 2010, the police crime lab considered discontinuing methamphetamine and cocaine testing kits. Technology and the need for more precise and efficient drug identification led to the decision. The outmoded kits typically produced equivocal or incorrect results, hindering drug-related prosecutions. To assure high-quality forensic analysis, the department sought newer, more advanced testing methods. This innovative effort is intended to improve the crime lab's ability to combat the ever-changing drug crime landscape and provide justice in the face of illicit drugs.
Yes, my ID. Sorry, yes, my ID, sir.
I don't.
Huh?
I don't.
You don't have any ID? Why are you filming me? Why are you filming me?
Am I being detained?
What?
Can I leave? Am I being detained?
For a moment. Why don't you go ahead and shut that off?
An uncomfortable situation develops when a man records an incident with a camera and focuses on a law enforcement official in the middle of the action.
No, actually, no.
Turn around and face away from him. Do you have any weapons on you? Do you have any weapons on you? Do you have any weapons, sir? Yes or no? Do you have any weapons? Yes. Answer me yes or no, please. Relax.
I don't consent to searches, sir.
I'm doing this for my safety. This is a pat-down search. I have no idea why you're filming the police department, the cars in the parking lot, or filming me. Leave it alone.
He addresses the officer with self-assurance as he asserts his legal rights and inquires as to whether or not he's being held against his will. His tone conveys a sense of resolve. There's a healthy dose of both doubt and suspicion in the air, as well as a strong determination to make sure that accountability is maintained.
What's your name and
Stay still.
badge number?
Okay?
What's
Just
your name
relax.
and badge number?
You got any weapons on you?
No, I don't. What's your name and badge
What's this?
number?
It's not a knife, is it?
I don't have no knives on me. I don't have no weapons. That's right. Can I have your name and badge number, please?
Yeah, I'll give it to you in a second.
Okay. I'm not doing nothing illegal, bro.
I don't know why you're filming us. Why are you walking along filming everything? Filming me.
Can I turn the camera around so they can see us?
No, turn around. They can listen to us. You got a recording. Leave it alone.
Why can't I turn the camera
Why
around?
don't you listen? Why do you have a difficult time following instructions? Why are you filming me?
I don't want to answer your questions, sir.
Why?
Get your supervisor out here, please.
No.
1564 is your badge number.
That's my badge number. That's right.
Okay, 1564.
Yep. Detective Kyler. Kyler.
Am I being detained?
You're free to go.
I'm free to go.
Don't videotape me no more.
The man's steady hand and unyielding dedication to defending his rights are obvious, which attracts the attention of spectators and emphasizes the significance of individual liberties. As the footage from the camera continues to play, the unfolding dialogue highlights concerns about the precarious equilibrium that exists between personal liberties and governmental restrictions.
Okay, so why was I detained?
I wasn't the officer. I have no idea.
For filming, I was detained.
Okay. If you were filming around a government building, a city government building, or anything, I'd want to come and see who you are too.
Okay, what was under suspicion of what crime was I detained for, though?
I want to see why you're filming the police department. We don't know who you are or what.
Is it a crime to film the police department, bro?
No, it's.
What's your badge number? 604?
Yep. You want me to write my name down for you?
Yes, please.
Sure.
This is ridiculous, guys.
The individual kept his position and steadfastly refused to provide approval for any searches to be conducted on his person. He calmly but firmly emphasized to the police that he was documenting the incident for the sake of protecting his own safety. His commitment was steadfast. His palm was securely wrapped around the camera he was holding, allowing him to capture every scene as it happened. The individual recognized the possible hazards that could arise from interactions with individuals who held positions of authority. Nonetheless, he was a firm believer in the efficacy of openness and responsibility. His unwillingness to cooperate with the search request was motivated by a desire to safeguard his legal standing and make certain that an accurate account of the exchange was preserved. The camera served as his defense mechanism, recording an act of defiance for the sake of individual liberty and fairness. After questioning him for quite some time, the police officer decided to let him go. As soon as the man's shackles were taken off, the tension in the room subsided, but the incident left him with a bad taste in his mouth, and he decided to submit a formal complaint against the police officer. He felt his rights had been trampled upon and sought redress through the proper means. The incident was brought to light and the officer's actions were reevaluated as a result of the complaint, which prompted an internal investigation. By sharing his story, the man hoped to spare others from going through what he had. The ACLU supports people's rights to videotape police in public. The ACLU recently stressed law enforcement transparency and accountability. The organization reminded law enforcement officials nationwide that civilians have the right to film police interactions. The ACLU also empowered and protected anyone who recorded police contacts with detailed rules. The ACLU promotes recording to improve police-public relations.